Welcome to the 24-hour conference on global organised crime podcast from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime. I'm Jack Megan-Vickers. The 24-hour conference on global organised crime took place online in November 2020 and was organised by the European Consortium of Political Research Standing Group, the Centre for Information and Research on Organised Crime, the International Association for the Study of Organised Crime, and the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime. Hundreds of academics, researchers, journalists and others from around the world gathered together to present and discuss the latest research in organised crime. We've selected just 14 of them for this podcast series, but I would encourage you to head over to the website oc24.globalinitiative.net where you can find recordings of other sessions. In this episode, you'll hear the session Transnational Organised Crime and Emerging Technologies.
Welcome to this Research Note Catwalk session on transnational organized crime and emerging technologies. My name is Justin Picard. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a company named ScanTrust. We have developed an Internet of Things platform that is used to protect products and documents from counterfeiting and illicit trade. We use technologies such as machine learning, blockchain, mobile phone authentication devices, and digital printing to enable secure traceability and product authentication. I'm also part of an initiative at the European level that aims at developing a global infrastructure based on blockchain to allow stakeholders such as customs, right holders, supply chain operators, and consumers to interact and interface together to address issues of counterfeiting. So digital technology, as we all know, has an increasing role in our life. It also has an increasing role in how it shapes organized crimes and our response to criminals and how we can prevent them to proceed with illicit activities. So technologies such as artificial intelligence or the Internet of Things or blockchain, supply chain security system, and even like space technologies, they're all tools that we can use to prevent or stop organized crime or to mitigate its effect if we're able to work together as institutions or as organizations, and then we're able to harness these technologies. At the same time, these technologies also provide organized crimes tools for them to proceed with their crime, their illicit activities without getting caught. They allow them to more easily distribute their products or distribute the proceeds of their activities. So in this session, we have 4 panelists who will present their views on how emerging technologies can be leveraged by institutions, organizations, or enforcement for citizen security and the prevention and detection of crime in our increasingly digital environment. We also will see how these technologies can be used by organized crime and how we can anticipate that and mitigate these effects. So we have 4 panelists here. Unfortunately, Guillermo Mendoza, who was supposed to talk about the use of smart home devices and the security risks they entail, cannot be with us. We have Marina Diaz. I see you, Marina. Are you based in Geneva, I believe? Yeah.
Yes, I'm currently in Geneva.
Marina. Okay. So you are a program assistant at UNICRI, United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute, and you're with the Knowledge Center for Security Through Research, Technology and Innovation. So your presentation is entitled Infiltration of Organized Crime into the Legal Economy, Supply Chain Security. And you will talk about threats in the supply chain and technology solutions such as blockchain and biometrics, big data, analytics, and AI. After you, there will be Jaime Trinidad. Hi, Jaime.
Hello.
Hello. I believe you're based in Mexico City at the moment.
Yes, at the moment, I'm in Mexico.
Okay, great. So you're co-founder and CEO of an organization named LT3D Lab. It's a 3D printing laboratory which prints parts for medical equipment that are used for COVID. You have also made a master at Polytechnique Paris on the Internet of Things. And you will talk about the future of IoT, the fusion of IoT and artificial intelligence, and the challenges that we have to keep the IoT secure. And you will give examples of how organized crime can use this technology to their advantage. After Jamie, we'll have Frederick Florence, who is a PhD candidate in Oxford. I don't know if you have your camera on, Frederick.
Yeah, hello.
Oh, hello, okay. I don't see you, but because there's 150 participants here. Yeah, so before being a PhD candidate in international relations at the University of Oxford, you completed a master in global crime, justice and security at the University of Edinburgh. And your thesis was on how technology can become appropriated by organized crime group. And in your talk entitled Outer Space Outlaws, we will talk about the risk of organized crime in space. And you will present a framework that can be used by institutions to make sense of how organized crime might be able to use these technologies and how we might be able to mitigate that. Finally, we'll have Mauricio Bastien, who is a lead forecaster at the Center for Security and Emerging Technologies in Georgetown University. Hello, Mauricio.
Hello, how are you? Good morning.
I'm good, how are you? Yeah. So you're based in, Georgetown, are you based in Washington, near Washington?
Right now I'm in Mexico City.
Oh, Mexico as well, okay. Yeah. So you work with the government of Mexico, the International Development Bank, and the European Union, and you also serve as delegate to the UN. Your presentation is entitled GovTech and Security, Challenges for Innovation. And it will be about digital transformations that police institutions need to implement in order to face new threats related to emerging technologies and their need for institutional capacity, human capital, and sustainable action frameworks. Just before we start, just let me give the ground rules for the session. So, well, first of all, the aim and objective is to really foster as much discussion as possible on the interplay between organized crime and technology. So after the speakers give their presentation, I hope there will be a lot of interaction and brainstorming with all participants. Each presentation should take 5 to 7 minutes. And after the last speaker, we will open the floor to the online audience for short comments and questions. There should be about 25 to 30 minutes for that. During the presentation, I encourage you to already type in your question in the chat. They will be all collected, and then when we start the question session, then we can start with those questions right away. And then afterwards, you will be able to either still type in your question, or if you raise your hand, you will be able to ask your question orally, or you can also make a brief comment. So let's get started right now with Marina Diaz and her presentation on the infiltration of organized crime into the legal economy, supply chain security. The floor is yours, Marina.
Thank you, Justin. So I'm going to share with you some of the work we do at UNICRE, specifically at the Sirio Knowledge Center. First of all, just a brief comment of what we do there is that we analyze the impact of the rapid technology changes. We try to identify security threats, but also possible solutions to develop strategies for these threats. These are some of the topics we analyze in the Knowledge Center. I'm going to present a very brief case where you can see how technology can be used to combat the infiltration of organized crime in the supply chain. So First of all, where does the money come from? The money of criminal organization come from different sources, including drug trafficking, people trafficking, environmental crimes, counterfeiting, among others. But why would they infiltrate the legal economy if they already have a source of income? So basically, we identify some of these trends. So they infiltrate the legal economy to do money laundering, to seek for more profit, to seek for social approval and a larger control of territory, but also to diversify their investments. So organized crime can infiltrate the supply chain in different ways. These are just some of the ways they can do it. They can directly enter the supply chain or a part of the supply chain. They can acquire chain. In the case, for example, of food, they can acquire supermarket chains. They can acquire stores. They can create local monopolies, imposing products that come from organized crime. So what are the consequences of this infiltration? Well, first of all, if the criminal organizations infiltrate legal economy, they have more profits from here, which means that there's a growth in the organized crime illicit activities because the money goes directly to those activities as well. But also we have interesting consequences such as the health threats for the population. For example, if the organized crime infiltrates the food supply chain, then we have that maybe they substitute products for low quality ones, or they can even intentionally spread poison, or they can spread agents into the supply chain. So that would be, and that would directly impact the population. But also they control the territory, since they spread the control of the physical chains and stores that are part of the supply chain. So they, at the same time, control more territory. And then, of course, they get higher profits and investment. So some of the threats in the supply chain that we identify, these are not all-encompassing, but there are some of the traits we identify. It's the repacking operations, where they substitute the original product with counterfeit, which can be quite dangerous if we're talking about food, if we're talking about pesticides, for example. It can be quite dangerous for the population. But obviously, there are also some other threats we can see, like the lack of control over the product quality once it's packed, and the creation of clandestine sub-shops and production centers, which means that if at some point in the supply chain the criminal organization controls a part of it and the rest, it's, let's say it's legal and it's a normal supply chain, you might not realize that they are exchanging product, or that they are using, for example, they are including human trafficking in this chain, or that they are exchanging the product. So that's one of the biggest risks. But also, we don't have a way to monitor the full data exchange in the supply chain, or to control over the distribution of the product. And finally, the consumer is unaware of what is going on during the supply chain process. Then in the supply chain, we have another thing that we can analyze, which is e-commerce. What happens in e-commerce? Sometimes people are buying counterfeit products and they're not aware of this. So we need a larger cooperation between all services, all authorities, but also deep monitoring of the e-commerce platforms, and in general, all the platforms where you can acquire products. So I'm going to explain a bit how technology can be used to tackle these threats. So the first solution, it's a multi-layer security solution, and it's a solution that also uses blockchain to protect the whole process. So first of all, here it's a bit more clear. First of all, you identify the product. The authentication process can include many things, from QR codes, labeled tags, anything that could help you identify your product from the rest. It can be easily identified or hidden. We have both examples here. A QR code, it's easily identified by the customer, or a hidden one where you need a special device to actually see the authentication code. It can either be made for stakeholders in the supply chain or for customers. It can be customized, it can be integrated with other solutions as well. And then the second step is traceability. In here, you link the physical product with the digital traceability system. It can be done through the authentication method. It can be done through radio frequency identification systems. And it's all secure in a digital database. And it's really important to understand that all of this is secure by blockchain technology. So it means that every exchange in data, it's protected and it cannot be removed, modified. It's pretty much transparent for every stakeholder in the supply chain. And finally, we have data analytics that will help us really see in a simplified way the process of the supply chain. All of this protected by blockchain. The second way we can use technology in the supply chain, and these are just examples. Of course, we have a lot of ways, but this is some of the examples, is using big data analytics. This will help us acquire a long and very diverse data. And you can use all the data you need from search engines, from social media, marketplaces, everywhere where you can sell products. So you can obtain all this data, and then it can be processed through machine learning, for example, where you can associate the data and the elements you want to analyze, and then you can identify the connection between websites, for example, and users. And then you have integral insights of the issues, and it's easier to identify the counterfeit products. And the final step would be the cloud-based platforms where you can actually display the data, and it's easy for the stakeholders to keep an eye on all the process. So this is just one way in which it can be done. These solutions already exist. For example, this will help you to look for counterfeit products of your brand that are being sold online, but it can also be used, for example, to analyze which reviews in a marketplace are fake, because sometimes criminals use fake reviews to try to create this confidence from the client so they can sell the products easier. So with this technology, you could see which reviews are fake, for example. So it can help us analyze and actually take the counterfeit products out of the market. This is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marina. Very interesting presentation. Yeah, lots of potential in these technologies. Okay, so let's move to our next speaker, Jamie Trinidad, for a talk entitled Internet of Things, Artificial Intelligence and Security.
Hello. Oh, so I'm going to speak about Internet of Things, a little vision of the future, and the security. Why do we need to develop secure devices and edge devices, and some example of it. So in general, the paradigm in IoT is that all kind of devices that sense, they are communicating, sending all kind of information to the network, to the cloud, and they speak each other. So it's difficult to know where our information is because there are a lot of companies or enterprises that are selling all kinds of network devices, and maybe you don't know where all that information is going. And because they speak each other, maybe they take the information of other device and send it to other place that we don't want. So it's really important to take care about this. And this technology is growing really, really fast. By 2023, they are thinking that there will be more than 100 billion devices connected to the network. So this will increase. We are going to have all kind of data in the cloud, in servers, and we don't know in what servers. No, that's why it's necessary to develop secure devices. Now, the future of IoT is going to be with the artificial intelligence, the 5G network that now is ready for all these kind of devices for speak each other. Now, for example, 4G network is not ready for that. So devices run in 2G or maybe 1G network. And all big data, because with all these are going to have the algorithms for artificial intelligence. So now I'm going to speak about the IoT. That it's what is it? Is the artificial intelligence that are the algorithms which enable simulate activity of the human brain, plus the edge computing. What is edge computing? It's like an intermediary between cloud data centers and devices. Now, edge computing function as a filter. We don't send all information to data centers because there's information that it's not necessary. So it's run here in the edge and only sends the information to the cloud center. Now, downloading the layer of artificial intelligence, devices are going to connect to the edge, and with the algorithm trained, are going to respond to make actions in real time to these devices. Why is important Edge IoT? Because it's going to be a part of key tasks that needs no latency in our devices, like in hospitals, autonomous cars, factories, smart cities. They are not going to connect to the cloud. They're going to connect to the edge, and we are going to have a real-time response. Now, some key cores of Edge IoT is that we're going to have security and privacy, low connectivity, low latency, and it's going to work as hybrid computing. Edge IoT won't disappear all the data centers. It will work together. But it will really be secure, and we have all that privacy that we want. That's why it's necessary to develop in our world, in companies, secure devices and secure edge devices. So there's our challenge to develop all these kind of devices, because in some devices there are insufficient tests and compilers, and they take out to the market. There's lack of awareness. Maybe some company see that we have issues with that devices, and they don't update, and they let them be like that, and they can be hacked, they can be espionage. There's no robust design in some devices. We can have botnet attacks, all the kind of weak password that all people use it there in the world. There are a lot of weak passwords. And with all this, we are going to have our data integrity maybe out. The reason to develop in the world secure devices and secure edge devices for the critical task is I'm going to speak about some scenarios that experts develop that the crime and terror acts are using with the IoT. Maybe they can hack your smart home devices, and because all devices are talking each other, they can enter to maybe all devices if they enter in one of your homes and take your information and blackmail you. Also, smart cities under attack, they can combine cyber attacks in the city with physical attacks. They may know if they hack the city, traffic lights or other stuff, police communication, that they are connected to the network. They can combine it, and they can set, we are going to attack here, or make all that stuff. in hospitals, there are critical tasks that now are connected to devices, and if they hack them, they can hurt people. No, so or maybe all the hospitals or take down all machines, etc. The defense systems also, if they hack the defense systems, they can collect their data. They can know where are all these people, and with, for example, resource data, they can also steal that resource data, understand where can they attack, or understand how to steal all the resources, like all that kind of stuff. So that's why it's necessary to develop in the world to attach that security for all the systems. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jaime. It's a really fascinating but very scary topic, because with IoT, seems that when an attack is made, it can really be launched at a large scale. And that whatever we do, there will always be security flaws, in these systems, and just waiting for someone to find them and take advantage of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So for our next talk, we have Frederick Florence, who will talk about now security threats in space. This talk is entitled Outer Space Outlaws, the Risk of Organized Crime in Space. You can start, Frederick.
Thank you. My talk is called Outer Space Outlaws, and I'm going to talk about the risks of organized crime in space. So the question that I'm asking is, could organized crime groups get a hold of space technologies? Now, at first, this might sound like the premise of a new science fiction novel or a new James Bond movie. But if we think more deeply about this, there might be actually good reasons why this could happen. So the first one is that the privatization of the new space industry, or of the space industry as a whole, reduces the cost of space technologies dramatically. So to give you a reference point, the space shuttle program costs around $61,000 to send something into space per 1 kilogram. Currently, the Falcon 9 Heavy by SpaceX costs around $1,500 to send 1 kilogram into space. And next year, there is supposed to be a new SpaceX spacecraft called Starship, which is supposed to cost only $10. So just $10 per kilogram, which is quite a dramatic reduction. And secondly, we shouldn't underestimate the ingenuity of organized crime groups in obtaining technologies. This might sound a bit redundant, but in 2019, we have the Spanish Coast Guard, for example, found a submarine carrying around 3 tons of cocaine in front of the Galician coast. So that shows you that organized crime groups are pretty capable and resourceful in obtaining technologies. And the last thing is that space technology give you certain strategic advantages. A case in point is the US military, who has currently still the cutting edge in technology and is therefore incredibly capable. So what are these capabilities? So there are 3. They basically are exactly what they say. There's Earth observations, geospatial positioning, and satellite communication. So in theory, Earth observation would allow organized crime groups to check for police checkpoints in real time, law enforcement movements, and circumvent them accordingly. Geospatial positioning allows you to track couriers and agents and operatives and find alternative routes. And satellite communication allows organized crime groups to direct agents in remote areas where cell phone networks break down in a secure manner. So in essence, what we can say about all these 3 technologies that they have in common is that they centrally aggregate information about the planet and then facilitate the distribution thereof. And that makes them particularly suitable for complex logistical or tactical operations with transnational dimensions. So now, because this is a very speculative talk, I want to ground this a little bit more into theory. And I think it's not enough to just say, oh, these are the advantages, so organized crime groups will do this. No, I think we need to kind of look at the institutions of organized crime, and likewise at the social structures that can be facilitated by technologies. So there is a theory called adaptive structuration theory. In essence, it says groups and technologies both harbor social structures. And then groups will appropriate those technologies that mirror their social structures the best. And once appropriated into a group, technologies and groups reshape each other. So then the question becomes, how can we classify social structures? And here I use another theory, which was developed by some of the people mentioned down here, who will hopefully excuse me reducing this theory into a few seconds. But essentially, this is cultural theory. And it says that all social relations can be plotted across 2 dimensions, grid and group over here. So grid is the extent to which the actions of an individual in a collective are left to their own. And group is the extent to which you feel an individual member of a social collective feels associated to the broader collective. So this yields 4 quadrants of social organizations. And I'm only concerned in this talk with the high grid dimensions, so hierarchical or fatalist. And according to the framework, we now might ask, okay, we can plot somewhere space technology. We can position it somewhere in this diagram. Now I would say it's probably somewhere here in the high grid, because it centrally aggregates information and facilitates command structures. So then the question becomes, okay, who might want these high grid structures to facilitate their operations? And there we have terrorist organizations. I know we can talk about whether they are actually hierarchical or more factionalized. There's a lot of debate, and transnational trafficking groups. This could also include insurgent groups, which I haven't listed, but they could be also included here. So now after this sort of speculative frenzy, I want to put this more into a realistic context and sober up a little. So there is international space law, which restrains the abilities of private actors into space, because it says that states are responsible for any activity in outer space. So that means that states keep a tight grip over space activities, even if they are private activities. And secondly, getting into space is hard. It's very hard. I know I said that we shouldn't underestimate the ingenuity of organized crime groups, but acquiring space technology requires a vast amount of experts that is very difficult to do clandestinely. And the last thing is, getting into space is also loud. States will monitor the unauthorized launches and are likely to detect them and intervene or interject any unauthorized launches. So to give you a brief conclusion, we can think of those organized crime groups that are most likely to appropriate space technologies are those that require a high grid structure or those that want a high grid structure. So in that sense, those involved in complex operations that require a lot of direction and coordination, or would benefit from this. The second thing is that organized crime groups require deep cooperation with states outside of the space law regime if they want to appropriate space technology. And then once appropriated, the OCG state relations as well as the OCG technology relations are likely to deepen and change. So there is a possible outlook from where we can go from here. I grouped them in theoretical and practical. Theoretically, we can think of indicators that measure this relationship between states, but also the 4 social relationships that I outlined. And then we can also debate whether space technology is fatalist or hierarchical. Then the other thing is more practical, that relates to the problem of dual-use systems. That is systems that are used both by military or civilian agents. And then we can also think of the prospects of insurance fraud or embezzlement in the new space industry. That was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Very insightful talk. You know, it's rare that we have the opportunity to preparing for a potentially upcoming type of crime before it occurs. Usually, we're more reactive. I hope that all these insights and the analysis that you and imagine maybe your research department are doing will be leveraged so that we don't get caught off guard in the future. Yeah. So our last presentation is going to be by Mauricio Bastian, and it's entitled GovTech and Security, Challenges for Innovation. Mauricio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Justin. And first and foremost, thank you to everyone who has made this conference possible, to all the volunteers and the Secretariat team, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. So my presentation will address the main concerns and the main tasks that police institutions and governments need to implement in order to have a strengthened technological framework to address all the challenges that we just have been presented about Internet of Things, outer space technology, and supply chain technology. So I will I will first present 4 main pillars and then give some examples to finally end with conclusions. Well, here first the 4 main key areas that I believe are important to address and to have in mind are the following. First, technology transfers through strategic partnerships with a view of exchange of information, and of course all that within a strong legal and policy framework. So what do I mean with our first pillar, technology transfer? Well, whenever we talk about technology, we tend to mix it with innovation. And there is this bad idea or this misunderstood concept that all technology is innovation, but it's not. Not all innovation is technological, and not all technology means innovation. So therefore, when we talk about technology transfer, we need to have a comprehensive approach where we talk about human capital, institutional capacity, and evidence-based technology with a sustainable approach as well. It's not just technology per se. Then about the exchange of information, we need that governments and state and local authorities have their information in an interoperativity, bidirectional information, where both ends have this correct information, and of course we need privacy concerns because all of this information is related to our users. So we need to offer them privacy. And of course, there are the 3 V's of big data that will have a volume, and we need this information and this data to be verifiable, and we need to have added value of with this big data that we are getting meanwhile we implement all this technology, as Mariana was saying, when we do all this, for example, supply chain technological implementations for security. Then also I identify strategic partnerships to implement technological innovations, and we need to get on board a private sector, companies that work on technology, academia as well, civil society, with an approach of shared responsibility, because when we talk about security, we most of the times we say, oh, that's a responsibility of the government, but we need to bring all the responsible actors on board. And also these strategic partnerships needs a strong governance, and of course align with the sustainable development goals. And then, as I was telling, we need a legal framework, because criminal innovations, as we just saw, as Jaime and Frederick were telling, well, they are getting more innovative as sometimes governments. So we need to address those challenges with an ethic perspective, because well, we have to bear in mind that not all the legal decisions have a a justice approach. No? So we need to bear in mind those, and also national and international level legal framework, and also here I will include local level as well. I saw that in the chat some questions, and Tatiana, I think from the European Forum of Security, I was talking about the implications for local governments and national governments. Well, here there are. They need to strengthen their legal framework. And some examples here. For example, here you can see the 911 operations center from Honduras, and a low-income country in Central America that has implemented technology, no? And with this, they face different challenges. For example, when they were trying to implement face recognition cameras or high-end technology cameras, well, the first innovation that they had to make, or the first change, was an infrastructure change, because they didn't have the bandwidth in order to use those kind of cameras. So that's an example of first doing other kinds of innovations in order to use real technology and to implement real technological changes. Also, when I talk about exchange of information, well, there is a need that all countries have the same standards for classification of crimes, for example, because smuggling of or trafficking in persons can be defined as one thing in one country, but as another in other countries. So they need to be all the same standards. So in order to face those crimes in the same way, in a not only in a national level, but also in a regional and international level. So the UNODC effort is a good example of this. And also when about strategic partnerships, well, here is an example of a good partnership where different agencies of different governments came together to combat gangs across the Central America and Mexico. So this is the kind of examples that I mentioned. And the last one is about the legal framework. Right now we are facing, this is a gun, a 3D printed gun. So there is, in most of our countries, there is no legal framework in order to address this crime, because the only definition of a gun is of a firearm is a regular firearm that we all know, but there are no laws about this. And also the UN has started the conversation about this topic, new technologies to manufacture illicit firearms. So we need to bear in mind. And well, the main 3 points for conclusion is that we need transparency. It's important about all this data that we are generating and we are processing. We need also coordination among in a vertical and horizontal level. Vertical, I mean, from all the national, subnational, and international governments and actors, and and horizontal, I mean, from different ministries that are involved in security, from the Security Ministry, from the General Attorney Office, from the Judiciary Branch. And also we need an approach with technology and innovation, the ones that I mentioned, that we need to bear in mind that that not all technology means innovation. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mauricio. It's very solid and concrete presentation on how we need to, what we need to do, or what police institutions need to do to leverage these new technologies in an effective way. So I think now we have, we're in time. We have 30 minutes for questions. So I already have a few questions that were asked in the chat. So we'll go through those, and then we'll see afterwards if there are people want to take the floor to ask their questions, or if there's more questions in the chat. So the first question is a general question for the speakers. So it's from Tatiana Morales. Question is, how can emerging technologies support the local security stakeholders to combat organized crime's consequences at the local level? So really the focus of using technology to address issues at the local level. So anyone who would like to take the lead on answering this question? Mariana, you want to go?
Sure. Well, I think Mauricio talked about a bit of this in his presentation, but in general, I would say technology is highly adaptable. For example, the examples I decided to talk about today, there are just a few examples of how you can use this technology, but you can use, for example, big data to analyze instead of fake reviews online. You can use it to analyze illicit trade in online trade, and then identify the actors and how they are connected. And this can be used by authorities to actually identify criminals. The same thing with artificial intelligence. You can combine all these tools to have different objectives. Another example would be used to avoid the dual use of dangerous materials. For example, if you use this technology in the supply chain, but in the supply chain of a nuclear plant, for example. So I think Mauricio talked a bit about the adaptability in governments, but I think these technologies can really be used by authorities to actually help in the identification of criminal organizations and their activities. It depends on which activities, but it's technology, at least in my opinion, does not replace humans. It helps them. It gives them more tools to analyze, to have concrete data. So you can adapt this technology for them, for sure.
I don't know if anyone wants to add something. Mauricio, I know it was a bit part of your topic, but do you want to add a few words?
Yes, well, thank you for the question, Tatiana Morales. Yes, well, definitely local governments, well, as I was talking, they need to strengthen their legal framework, their institutional capacity before doing that jump to implementing new technologies, and combat organized crime. So first they need the whole framework in order. So and of course this will trigger that. No, the new technologies can trigger strengthen institutional capacity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. So moving to the next question from Chukwemeka Ngene. Hope I pronounced the name correctly. So the question is quite open-ended. It is, what is the link between artificial intelligence and intellectual property? I think we can say in the context of organized crime, but I think any of the speakers can take it there's multiple angles from which this question can be taken. So Jaime, I thought maybe that it would be interesting to think about, in the context of IoT and artificial intelligence, how can you even protect intellectual property? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I think to protect intellectual property for the artificial intelligence or for IoT devices is to develop more secure devices to get strong with all the legal or part from governments in which models or which devices are accepted or which one no. There's a lot of liberty in a lot of countries without the specific laws or regulations, let's say regulations. So they can develop a lot of these kind of products in the countries. There are others, like I think in Europe, they are more strict with this kind of part, but it's also slow. No, enterprises, factories, or maybe the organized crime take all this technology, take advantage, and governments maybe see it 6 months later, 1 year later, or get the regulations later, and maybe that's the part that we need to get better. So it's difficult because technology is really fast in all kinds of ways, for positive ways or for negative ways. So I think the part is that we need the regulations also get really fast, but I think it's very difficult in the speed time develop of technologies.
I will just briefly add that in my field, artificial intelligence is used to detect counterfeits, to find illicit trade patterns based on the analysis of big data that comes from scans by consumers and supply chain on the field. Okay, so let me move to the next questions. Actually, there's 2 questions that relate to space technology. Get ready, Frederick. So I'll just give you the 2 questions simultaneously. You can give a full answer to those. So first question from Rico A is, do organized crimes groups really need their own space capabilities, or isn't it enough to kind of hijack commercially available space technology and modify them for their own purposes, as you mentioned? And then there's another question from Francis Cleland Bones, which is, do you have a view of how space technology could be used to counter transnational organized crime? Is this already happening? It seems that much of the scope for criminal activity could also be used as an approach against such crime.
Thank you for the 2 really good questions. Regarding Rico's question, yes, that might be possible. So I was more interested in instead of viewing governments or commercial actors as binary, maybe as cooperatives, but it is entirely possible that organized crime groups could hijack space capabilities in various ways. It should be noted, though, that is, again, a very difficult thing to do. Space is a highly delicate dimension. It's a highly delicate area, and it's closely monitored. So usually NASA or space agencies keep their assets very securely safe from outside infringement. What could be possible, instead of hijacking them, could be destroying them. The technology is not quite there yet, but that could be also a possibility that eventually organized crime groups might find ways of destroying satellites from the planetary surface. And then regarding Francis's question, that's just kind of leading there, because I guess organized crime groups would destroy satellites that are being used by law enforcement. And this is already happening. And this has been actually happening for a long time. So I'm aware of tracking people that have tracking them using satellites, or as well Earth observation. I think a lot of trafficking groups, especially in areas that are difficult to reach for local enforcement because of the territorial conditions there, in order to figure out where people are. Earth observation comes in very well. Navigation systems are also some really good ones. It kind of leads to also a merging of military and policing, because often these technologies are in the hands and in the control of the military. So sometimes there is this blurring of a boundary between what is military and what is police. And these technologies are a great example for this, because there's this cooperation between law enforcement and military, or sometimes the military will, because they have the access to these technologies, will take over policing tasks. So yes, this is happening. It could be entirely possible for, and it is happening for law enforcement and governments to use it to combat transnational organized crime. And probably there are way more good things about to happen and coming out of this industry. Thank
you very much, Frederick. Just another question focus on the threat of technology. This is from Diego Fleitas, and the question is, how do you evaluate the 5G risk, and if it is possible to mitigate them? I would suggest maybe that Jaime starts an answer, and then if other speaker you want to add something, feel free.
Okay, so first 5G. 5G, it's a massive machine type communication. So what's going to happen is that we can connect there a lot of devices. And this means that we are going to connect low-cost IoT devices, low-power devices with low latency. So how to mitigate? What's the issue here? Maybe it's no 5G. No, because 5G it's only the transport. Maybe are going to be all the devices that are going to connect here. So to mitigate all these kind of issues from devices, speaking about IoT, is that for devices, we take care about their security inside. We can't, maybe in regulations, we can let all kind of devices maybe go out to the market, because a lot of devices have a lot of weak points that they might be hacked, because for a lot of companies it's easy to sell more components than taking care about their security. So at this point, I think the best for 5G components devices, speaking about IoT, is the security of these devices, of how they are constructed, of how strong are in this part. So for 5G, I think this is the best, because it's only the transport, the communication, no, the 5G fast, but they will let a lot of massive devices to connect to this network.
Thank you, Jaime. Let's move to the next question, which is, do you know, it's from Jennifer, to all the panelists. Do you know any instances in which technology has gone wrong in detecting organized crime in supply chain? Sometimes it may be easier to talk about success stories of blockchain or AI. And so in those cases, what are the lessons learned and potential improvement?
I don't have in mind a concrete example right now, but as I said before, I don't think technology is perfect. These are tools that are helping people with processes, with specific goals. I don't think technology, we haven't got to that point where everything is just perfect. For example, okay, blockchain can help us see if the volume of product during the supply chain changes, and then we can infer that something is going wrong there. But at the end, I don't think it can help us with all the issues that we have right now. In the specific case of supply chain, for example, what do you do when organized crime controls the whole supply chain? So they don't infiltrate it, but they control everything from the distribution, manufacturer, to the supermarkets. then in this case, I can say, okay, technology cannot really help us, at least not what we know now or what we analyze. So there are certainly issues still that technology cannot solve. At the end, they are a tool for us to identify issues.
Thank you, Mariana. I will just add from my own experience here is, well, in the anti-counterfeiting space, actually, one issue is that indeed companies, brand owners are sometimes scared to implement technology and like let, for example, all consumers scan to authenticate because they fear, you know, what is going to happen, like if something wrong happens, like for example, if the system wrongly says, oh, it's a counterfeit, but it was an original product, or even it was a fake product, but then and they start to publicize it on social media, or the packaging is authentic, but what's inside is not, and the person gets harmed, and so on and so forth. So indeed, at least this fear of having issues can hold progress in some cases. Okay, so moving on to the next question from Panos Kostakos. We like that question here. What is the role of organized crime domain experts, researchers and practitioners within the newly emerging AI and data-driven approach against organized crime? Is new technology changing the way we should study or research organized crime? I mean, some of you have recently made studies, I think, right? That
yeah,
and I guess you already probably see the effects. Maybe you can of the need to understand technology and the way it can be used and its implications.
I mean, I cannot speak to the AI and data-driven approach, but I do think that the way we study research in OC is changing, partly because of technology. So it's changing and it's not changing in a way, I think. I think what needs to change is that we need more theoretical tools of how we can make sense of technology and organized crime and what the role is of technology that go beyond merely looking at this makes sense. As I said, it cannot just be a rational choice approach. But on the other hand, I also think that a lot of the times, actually, it's the same old story. I'm thinking of drug dealing in crypto markets. There, it's certainly changing. But on the other hand, there's also, again, people are interested in economic benefits. However, I think there also the way people organize is changing as a result of technology. For example, recent studies have found that that actually in crypto markets that were founded on this libertarian ideal where everyone could access the markets, everyone could sell whatever they wanted, and everyone could buy whatever they wanted. There's now a trust-based system where access to these markets is limited.
Well, in my case, that I'm coursing the master in École Polytechnique at École Polytechnique. No, there's no approach to these themes. For example, I've been talking with some professors that it will be interesting, no? But as Frederick said, in this case, all the themes are more for economic benefit or for going to industry, no taking care about maybe this part. So I think it's really interesting in this kind of way, but in my case, no, there's no approach about these themes. Also because it's really technical. No, my master more than other issues. It's more from the technical part.
Thanks, Jaime. Yeah, Mariana, you're at the UNICRI, also in the innovation department, if I'm not wrong. Are there like many researchers, many of your colleagues who have knowledge in artificial intelligence techniques or blockchain?
Yes, we do. We have a special department for artificial intelligence, actually, but also when we research about organized crime in general, I think big data has allowed us to process this huge quantity of information and make it easy to identify trends, for example, to connect the dots, because it's a tool to understand how criminals are behaving. So I can say that at Uniqri, we see an advantage of these technologies, and we explore not only, well, the risk that there is sometimes when using this technology, especially if criminals or extremist groups take advantage of this technology, and we try to connect those threats with possible solutions, especially for policy making or for state parties that are involved in this sort of issues. So we do see a difference. It's still not perfect. We are looking at different tools and how they work and what information you can obtain from them. But I think in the future it would be just easier to integrate this sort of technology just to obtain data so we can interpret later.
Mauricio, I know you had some technical issues, but you managed to join back. Did you hear the question? Do you want to provide some thoughts on that?
Yes, sorry, Justin. Yes, it was about technology and how to use it for crime analytics, right?
What is the role of the organized crime domain expert? Does it need to evolve with the emerging AI and data-driven approach?
Yes, sure. There are new techniques on crime analytics. For example, I recommend you for the person that is interested on research more about crime repeat victimization, and also research about social network analysis. Those kind of techniques use these technologies in order to propose different solutions for different crimes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mauricio. So I think we have here a last question in the chat from Caroline in the city, Pug Roberts. So the question is, what about pornography platforms that are showing child rape and sex trafficking victims by using the clause in NAFTA that excludes platform from liability as long as they themselves do not upload it? I don't know if anyone wants to answer that question, either in the context of NAFTA or maybe more also generally in case of different legislation between different countries. Anyone wants to take the floor for this question?
I mean, if I may, real quick, this has nothing to do with pornography platforms, but as you say, I think legal frameworks need to be adapted at times. So in my context, in the space law context, we have space law that is pretty strict on space activities, but it's not enough. There's still a lot of leeway, there's still a lot of discussions, and there's still a lot of resilience in developing the framework forward. So this is definitely a challenge. Is to what extent do international treaties, particularly, allow organized crime to use technologies?
Mm-hmm. And certainly one of the reasons that why there's so much illicit trade is because of uneven legal frameworks. You know, if we had the same laws and the general agreement on what's tolerated as type of trade or business activities and what is not acceptable because of the harms that it causes, then it's possible that it would have less of these issues. So I don't think we have other questions from the floor. We just have a few more minutes. I would just maybe ask one question myself. So it feels like, you know, with technology, everything goes faster and faster and faster. So if we the good guys want to be able to leverage technology and like make it an advantage rather than a disadvantage compared to the bad guys. We need to become quicker and quicker, but we don't necessarily see that, especially when you need complex agreement for cooperation, or sometimes it's very slow to adopt new technologies. Do any of you have some ideas to how to combat that and move faster? Well, Frederick, you even talk about anticipating rather than reacting, which is certainly a smart way.
Well, for me, it's a difficult theme in the part of ethics for companies, because, well, a lot of technology is developed there, and a lot of people just in their own way in the ethics part. So, as you said, this will be really, really fast, but I think for both sides, not for only bad guys or good guys. No, the theme is the regulation from the governments, but maybe making more, for me, more strong the part of securing all data, all that kind of transmission. We can lower that organized crime take that kind of information. No? For example, in IoT, they can't hack you. It won't be possible, no, but it will be more difficult for them to take your information, city information, all kinds of information that IoT devices are sending to the cloud. So for me, is this, no? It's a lot of part of ethics, maybe.
Thank you, Jaime. I don't know if someone wants to add very short words. Otherwise, I think I need to wrap up now.
Yeah, I just want to say that this might be this might be actually the answer to Panos's question. So I think this is where researchers come in to advise people on how we can keep up and actually appropriate this fast pace of technologies and consult governments on how to do that.
Yeah, and if I can add, I mean, this is pretty much the work that we do at UNICRI. We try to analyze this technology, we try to analyze these trends by criminal organizations, and we try to anticipate possible risk or attacks. And then we connect with other organizations, with governments, to discuss these threats and to implement solutions before they happen. Obviously, it's you cannot prevent everything. Times are moving fast, technology is moving, you cannot have eyes on everything, but certainly that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to spread this cooperation with other organizations, because I think that's a key element. You have to have governments cooperating with each other, you have to have institutions working together on the same page.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Marina. So I think I really need to wrap up now. So I would like to thank very much the speakers for their great presentation and the audience for their excellent questions. I do hope that you enjoyed the session as much as I did. I think the session really made the case that technology has an increasingly important role in the way we address and we understand, to understand organized crime and its evolution. So, by the way, I forgot to mention that, but the Global Initiatives have made a report recently on new technologies and their impact on organized crime, dealing with internet platforms and social media for human trafficking and also for sex pornography. That's one of the questions. So if you have other questions, I believe you can find the emails of the participant. I believe the presentation will be made available and you can access their email. Feel free to reach out to them. Thank you very much again to all. And I'd like to bring this session to a close. Goodbye, everyone.
You were listening to Transnational Organized Crime and Emerging Technologies. If If you'd like to get more information on this topic and the speakers, head over to the conference website, oc24.globalinitiative.net. There you can also find videos of most of the talks, including a number of discussions that are not part of this podcast series. This was the 24-hour Conference on Global Organised Crime podcast. I'm Jack Megan Vickers. Thanks for listening.